You have our permission
Mm.
to actually to step forward and take the courage to do what you want to do. You don't need to ask anybody if it's okay. You can take that step. It is okay to take that step.
Welcome to the Redefining Midlife podcast. I'm Jo Clark and I'm so glad you're here. And this is a podcast for women who are ready to break free from outdated stereotypes, rediscover themselves, and embrace the endless opportunities that midlife brings. Each week, I'll share expert advice, actionable strategies, and inspiring conversations with incredible women who are redefining what it means to thrive in midlife and beyond. From health and wellness to reigniting your purpose and passions, this is your go-to podcast for feeling empowered, supported, and seen. And midlife isn't the end. It's your time to shine, rewrite your story, and create a life that you truly love. So let's get started. Welcome to this week's episode of Redefining Midlife. And whether you're a long-time listener or you're tuning in for the very first time, I'm so glad you're here. And before we begin today's conversation, I want to take a moment to say a very big heartfelt thanks to everybody who has rated and reviewed this show. Because I know just life is so full and busy, and when someone takes that time to share their thoughts, it truly does mean the world to me. And two recent reviews really touched me, and I'd love to share them with you. The first is from a listener with the beautiful nickname, I Choose Me. And she wrote, "Thank you, Jo, for creating a podcast that not only has a wealth of knowledge for all of your listeners, but providing it in such a way that makes you feel that you are not alone. Midlife can be daunting, overwhelming, and also a bit of a roller coaster. So having a free resource to come to and receive advice is amazing and so reassuring." You're welcome. And from Ange71, Jo, wow, episode 133 is fabulous. So much great information and such a powerful conversation. If not now, when? I use that statement a lot. Thank you. And to both of you, thank you. Your words encourage me to keep creating, keep showing up, and keep sharing stories that support and inspire. And as always, if there's somebody that you know could benefit from the conversation or a particular episode, make sure you share that with that special person. Okay, now let's get on to today's episode. I had the pleasure of chatting with Christina Storey, a certified career and mindset coach, and the fabulous woman behind the business, Her Career Coach. Now, Christina has over 2 decades of experience in recruitment and talent, and she brings so much wisdom to the table when it comes to the way our careers can shift and evolve in midlife. Now, we spoke about the power of mindset and why so many women in midlife maybe perhaps second guess themselves, and then how to navigate change with clarity and confidence. Christina doesn't offer cookie cutter advice. She's real, she's relatable, and she's deeply passionate about helping women take bold, strategic steps towards careers that actually do light them up. So if you or someone you know is at a crossroads in work, or you're wondering what's next for you, I think you're going to get a lot from this conversation. So let's dive in. Welcome to the podcast, Christina.
Thank you, Jo. Thanks for having me.
It's going to be a good conversation to talk about because there's not just talking about women who are in the career at the moment. It's also
Mhm.
exploring what careers could look like further down the track, and what about for the women who are going to be re-entering the workforce after perhaps a bit of a
Mhm.
hiatus with their own career. But before we get
Mhm.
into the topic and really dig deep into that, let's find out a little bit more about you. So tell me how you got into a very long and illustrious career in HR and what led you there.
Fell into it, actually. I fell into it. A girlfriend of mine said she needed an admin person to help out, and I go, I'll do it. I wanted
Right.
to change from what I was doing, and I met with her director, and yeah, they gave me the job. So I started as an admin person in recruitment, and they saw the potential in me to work on a temp desk. So then it was agency recruitment. So I had a book of temps that I would put out, and yeah, stayed in agency recruitment for about It's been about 3 years, 4 years, maybe three. I don't know. I can't remember. It was so long ago now. It was 25 years ago now.
Okay, so
Um,
what age would you have
yeah.
been at this stage, Christina?
Oh, God. Hold on. I'm 53. So, what's that? 25 years ago. So, 20 something. I don't know. My maths is shocking. It's such a simple maths equation, but yeah. So it was a change of vocation for me too. So I really did not know what I wanted to do with my life or my career. And it just literally fell in my lap. And I loved it because I'm such a people person. And I get my energy from talking to different people and working with different people that it was almost like it was the right path for me.
Mm,
Things just fall in your lap for a reason. So you got to follow it. Like I didn't know it back then, but I definitely know it today. So started an agency recruitment, then moved into internal recruitment slash HR and have been in that, for the last ever so many years. But when I was about 47, 48, I started thinking that there was something more, I needed something more in my life. I
mm,
needed to do something more, that this just wasn't enough. I wasn't having a big of an impact as what I wanted to have. I knew that there was only so much that I could do in terms of coaching people how to prepare for interviews, coaching people how to put their best foot forward in an organisation. So navigating the world of work in an organisation. It was almost like I planted that seed was initially planted when I first started in recruitment, and it didn't come to fruition, or it turned into a seedling after I left one of my contract roles. And then I just cultivated it from there. And today, I have the great joy in having my own business, coaching women from the ages of 35 to 55 on their career, on their mindset. So a lot of the work that I do is around it's holistic career coaching. So combining that career strategy stuff with mindset work.
mm.
Yeah, for them to really showcase who they are and who they're meant to be, and having a career that actually sets their soul on fire.
So I'm really curious, Christina, was it something that you talked to somebody else about when you started to have those feelings?
No,
Isn't that interesting? Because
no.
same for me. Like, is it just and I don't know if you've discovered that with the women that you work with and who come to you for coaching, but I certainly know that the women that I work with, they all say the same thing. It starts as a feeling.
Mm.
And when you sort of acknowledge that feeling, that voice, it gets louder and louder and louder, and it's almost like a discontent. You're really not settled.
Yeah, so true. And it's that knowing that you have inside you. And one thing that I do say to a lot of my clients is follow those breadcrumbs, follow those little signs that come your way. Those little nudges, they're there to tell you something. And sometimes you don't know what it actually looks like. Sometimes you don't know what it may turn into, but just explore it. Be open to actually exploring it, because those little nudges are that little push for you to just step out of your comfort zone a little bit, try something that you know is aligned to you. But it's always those things that are showing you a clearer path to what it is for your future.
Mm,
I know that sounds a little bit, might sound a little bit weird to some people, but I truly believe that those little intuitive nudges that you get, they really are there to help you pave that path for you,
mm,
especially if you have those full body tingles and those full body hell yeses. You just know that it's something that you need to explore a little bit further. And I know for me, that's what I needed to do when
yeah.
I first started thinking about this. And I'm so grateful I did, because of the impact that I've had in many women's lives. And it's just a joy. You would be the same, Joe. It's just a joy to watch the transformation in them,
Mm,
the way that they actually become the woman that they've always meant to be, and they know that's in there, and having someone to hold their hand to help them and let them know that it is okay. You have permission to actually become you. You
mm,
have permission to be the woman that you always meant to be. That I think having that other person behind them helps them and gives them the courage to move forward.
Yeah, and that's right, because the steps that you take towards something that's completely different, completely out of your comfort zone, where you don't know if it's going to work out or not, that takes a hell of a lot of courage. And to do
Mm.
it by yourself is something that's what stops a lot of women from taking those steps forward. If you've got someone there by your side to help you through, it not only makes the journey so much faster, but it just makes it so much easier to have somebody else that you can talk to who understands. Because you're getting advice from someone who hasn't gone through something that you're going through or has experience in helping somebody else go through what you're going through, it doesn't, it's really not all that helpful. They can actually hold you back
Yeah,
and stop you from taking those leaps. So if I could
agree.
get back to, because I was fortunate enough to be on your podcast as well,
Yes, you
which was
were.
lovely, and discussing, all things midlife on your
Hmm.
podcast. I know for you that you're a mum with a young,
Hmm.
uh,
12-year-old,
12-year-old.
12-year-old girl.
So I knew
Yeah,
she was, we'll call her
yeah.
adolescent or not, but yeah, adolescent. So you've got a daughter who's a bit younger. Were you working full time when you started thinking about doing something a little bit different? Because that can also hold people back. They've got the responsibilities of mortgage, family, everybody else and everything else
Yeah.
that, taking and listening to those
Mm,
whispers can sometimes take a back seat. So what was your experience?
mm. Yeah. So my role was actually impacted. So when I was pregnant with my daughter, my role was impacted. And I actually found myself hiding my pregnancy because I didn't necessarily want to have that disadvantage me in securing another role with the bank.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think I hid my pregnancy for a good 6, 7 months. I'd be
Well
still wearing
done,
my
you.
suits and I know, and my zip at the back of my skirt was like undone and trying to hold it in. And then I just couldn't hold it in anymore. I just had to get it out there. But I was working on a project team at that stage and working with some fantastic HR professionals. So I was very fortunate that they were extremely supportive. And I thought, I wish I'd just had it done something sooner.
Mm.
But going on maternity leave and having that, I guess, that redundancy fall in my lap, it was something that actually made me think that I needed something different, that I didn't necessarily want the whole title of being a manager and running a team, etc. There, having a child definitely changed a lot of that. Went back to work part-time. So I went back to work 4 days a week and I never looked back since. So every role that I've had since then, since going back to work, so it would have been to 2016, 2017, where I actually went back part-time.
Mm.
And that 4 days a week, it's amazing how much you can actually achieve in 4 days. You don't need a 5-day working week. You can definitely do it in 4 days. And now I do it in 3 days. So I still work a corporate job, but also run my business too. So I work 3 days a week in my corporate job, and you can get so much done. But anyway, that's another story. But to answer your question, yeah, went back 4 days a week, had the nudges, needed to do something more. A friend of mine who I worked with sort of, tapped me on the shoulder. She knew that wanted to do something more, spoke to me about a multi-level marketing company, and I ended up sort of tapping into that for a little bit too. So that was interesting because it taught me resilience because you're talking to people about this product that's not sold anywhere else other than through word of mouth. So that taught me resilience with the knockbacks and things like that, and it just strengthened my resolve,
Mm.
strengthened my I guess my capabilities and my skills too in being able to talk to people and showing resilience. um but yeah, 4 days a week. Sorry, I'm gone a bit off track there, Joe, but 4 days a week, and I've continued to do that ever since.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
There, because I think sometimes it's a whole, oh, I want to do something, but I can't. And then it can be an
yep,
excuse because all of these other things are happening. So for you, I suppose it was you were able to take the step out of what was comfortable, but still knowing that you had the security of a
yeah.
job.
I was,
So is that the sort of advice that you give to women
yeah,
rather than just leaving everything behind? have a plan? Do you work with women on making a plan so it's not such a big leap into the unknown? Is that sort of
Yeah.
what you do?
It depends on the individual, to be quite honest. I know for me personally, I've had so many, I've got a great support from my husband. He is, my number one supporter in terms of my business and will do absolutely everything he can to help me there. And then, whether it's giving me space and time, whether it's actually taking our daughter for her sports activities, etc., there so I can focus on building my business because he knows how passionate I am about it and how he sees and hears me sometimes too. I mean, we live in a small house, so sometimes when I'm on coaching calls, they're quiet in the background, and I don't even know that they're there half the time. But if I get off a call, they'll go, "Oh my God, that was incredible what you said to that person. We didn't hear what they said to you, but just that ease and flow of what came out." So, that kind of level of support from them is massive. And he's always been there. He's always been my number one supporter, no matter what I do. He probably was very pivotal when I went through my own career crossroads as well. So a lot of the women that I work with are at a career crossroads in their life. So whether it is that they're actually not enjoying their current role, they want to explore something different, whether they are feeling okay in their current role, but just want more, it's not enough, or some others who might be returning to work as well. So there's quite a number of different women that I work with in different stages of their career and what that career crossroads looked like. When I went through my own career crossroads, it got to that stage where it actually started affecting my health, the work that I was doing in the role that I was in. And it's sometimes hard to talk about it too, because even though it happened years ago, it's still something that it had such a massive impact on my life that it can be difficult to speak about. So sorry if it takes me a bit to get out. Um, but in this role that I was in, it was to the point where I just became a shell of the person who I was. I would get home 9 o'clock at night. I'd put that role first. It was stressful because of the level of pressure that I felt I was getting from my manager. It affected my relationship with my daughter. It affected my relationship with my husband. And I just wasn't me. And it was horrible. When I look back on it now, it's just horrible to see that I actually put a job first
Mm.
and not actually put my family first. And my family are my highest priority. And they are my biggest supporters, but not just that, they are my highest priority and I'll do anything for my family. And to actually put them second, I look back now and I think, how on earth could I do that? But because I was chasing the role, I was chasing a title, I was chasing the want and the need to actually have more in my life at that stage that I needed to do everything that I could to get it. And to the detriment of not only my relationships with my husband and my daughter, but also my health suffered too. Um, and to this day, I still sort of suffer a little bit from that because when I'm extremely stressed, it comes out in my body.
Mm.
So it's interesting how your body actually tells you how stressed you are. So I can actually feel it coming on. It's like, okay, well, that's what I experienced back then. So it's almost been a bit of a hangover. When I left that role, when I walked out that door and resigned, it was almost like this massive cloud just lifted off my shoulders. It was as ridiculous, those cartoons, those black and white cartoons that you see, and this puff of cloud just disappears. It was almost like that, and it was incredibly freeing. Um, I think that in itself, just that act of stepping out of that organization, stepping out of that lift and out onto the street, it's almost like I became me again. And as silly as that sounds, it did happen in an instant. But I think because of what I actually had gone through and what I experienced, I think I'm able to help women more effectively now because I can resonate with how they are feeling. They can resonate with how I felt. And having that background in recruitment and HR and having those certifications, from the mindset work and being able to sort of tap into different things and how people work differently in their internal representation systems, and being able to tap into that can definitely help them navigate through their midlife. Because a lot of the women that I do work with, are at that stage. And I think they appreciate the fact that I've gone through it too. So definitely makes it a lot easier um, from a relating piece. As you mentioned earlier, you get more out of someone when you relate to
Mm,
them.
yeah. And a lot of what
Yeah,
you just said then,
yeah,
I could feel in my own body when you were talking about your experiences of your work and how it was impacting how you felt, your health, your relationships.
mm,
God, I could feel that. And it's for me,
yeah,
it's been 5 years since I've walked away, but it could have been yesterday because it
yeah,
takes you right back. It's almost like I can put myself right back to how I felt at that
yes,
point in time. And then when you describe that feeling of when you make when you make that decision and you step away, the absolute relief that you can feel. I mean, there is a part of because I stepped away completely. You're still sort of got a foot in, so to speak, but
yeah,
to move away from a career that was such a large part of who you were, your identity, particularly because I lived in rural and remote areas.
mm,
You were known in the area. You had that identity, and to leave that identity and take that coat off that was getting so tight and restrictive after so many years.
yeah,
Oh my God, it felt great, but it was also a process of who am I now?
yeah,
Who do I
yeah,
want to be? How am I going to use my skills? So
yeah,
let's talk about that sort of thing that you work with women who might have decided that they're wanting a bit of a shift, a change. Maybe they want to step back. Maybe they want to
yeah.
go further. I mean, there's not going to be the same story for every single woman because
No,
everyone's
there
going to be
isn't.
different. So how do you encourage people to take on a different idea of who they could be?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is to reflect back, and this is what I share with my clients. Reflect back on your career. What have you actually enjoyed the most? What have you enjoyed the least? What are some of those passions that you experienced in the roles that you had? What was the reason why you left the role? What was the reason why you actually accepted the role? So understanding those patterns, that tends to give you a little bit more clarity around those things that you love doing. And when you initially do that reflection piece, it's almost like that jigsaw puzzle is starting to fill up and those pieces are starting to fall into place. When you get that, once you've done that reflection, it's then actually then looking at, okay, well, what can I refocus on now? What can I do now? How does how do my strengths play into this? Where have I been holding back in my career? And where do I need to actually take the courage to step forward? So it's almost looking at that whole refocus piece. And then once you've worked out, there's a lot more to it than that, but refocusing on those strengths and looking at how you can utilize your strengths, how you can utilize the roles so what you actually love doing, how you can actually formulate that into what you want to do in the future. And then looking at, okay, well, what roles are actually going to do that? Then that helps give you that clarity of where you need to move forward. And I think that with any position that you're in, whether it's you're returning into the workforce, whether it is you are navigating through that career crossroads yourself and you just sort of you don't like what you're doing now, but you don't know what's next, or whether it is that you're wanting to actually you love working in the organization that you're working in, but you just want to develop yourself a little bit further, understanding more about who you are, understanding more about what skills you bring to a role or what your strengths are and what skills you can bring to an organization, what lights you up, what brings you joy, what gives you those full body, I want to do more of this. They're the things that you need to look at to help you move forward. And one thing, probably in the last, I'd say I've noticed in the last, and I think we spoke about this on my podcast too, In the last month or so, a lot of my clients and a lot of women I talk to, it's almost like that they need permission from someone to actually do this. And I think we shared this on my podcast, and I'll share this now with your audience too, Joe. You have our permission
Mm.
to actually to step forward and take the courage to do what you want to do. You don't need to ask anybody if it's okay. You can take that step. It is okay to take that step. And I think once you reflect back on things and work out what it is that you love doing, that will definitely help you move forward a bit more.
Mm.
Does that answer the question? Sorry, I feel like I went a roundabout way in answering the question.
I can't even remember what the damn question was. And I was being taken along the story with you. I'm happy with the way it all flowed. So let's forget that what the initial question was.
I think I did.
I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did. If it didn't, well, then it's taken us into this beautiful new space, which is great because that whole permission, the idea of you know feeling like you need permission in order to do something. Oh my God! I
Yeah,
mean, that's just ingrained, I suppose, for women in just societal. You need permission to do certain things. I mean, that's just the way it is.
yeah.
And thankfully, it's becoming less and less. And I suppose if you shine a light on that and just it's quite ridiculous when when somebody does shine the light on. You don't need anybody else's permission to do
Mm,
something like that. And I suppose it's, there'll be some listeners will be going, oh, yeah, it's easy for you to say, I can't do that. I'm not in a position that I can do that. And well, that's something that I suppose that person's got to deal with the reasons why that might be the case for them. And again, we're not having a
mhm,
one size fits all conversation here. So there's going to be
mm.
nuances for everybody. What do you say to the person who goes, yeah, well, easy for you to say, I just can't do that. I do need permission from various people.
I would actually ask yourself, why do you think that you can't do that? It's a mindset. It's actually a mindset thing. So what is your unconscious telling you that what is it telling you as to why you can't move forward? What is holding you back? So there's something there that's holding you back. So unpacking that reason and unpacking the why behind what is stopping you, that's where you will find your answers.
Mm.
And it's not just asking why you can't move forward, it's actually asking you why.
It's
So
okay. I'm getting
keep on
all the
getting to
time.
that
Yeah,
with
to get a
down to
better
that
answer.
why, the
Yeah.
five whys.
Mm.
Yeah, and getting to the root cause as to why. So is it because someone said to you when you were a kid, you can't do that, you need to ask for permission for that? There's a lot of, as you said, depending upon the individual, your belief system is unique to you. At the age of 0 to 7, we actually formulate a lot of our beliefs unconsciously. The belief of our parents, the belief of our siblings, well, the siblings that gets from the parents, the people that are around us. Um, we formulate those belief systems, and a lot of those belief systems aren't necessarily ours. They are ones that have been handed down. They could have been handed down generationally. I know for me that there's a few belief systems that my mum has that I know my grandmother had, and her mother before that probably would have had. So it was handed down gen yeah, can't even
Generation to
say it,
generation.
generationally. Thank you. So some of those belief systems, they're not yours. They're ones that you've actually inherited or adopted because you believe them to be yours.
Mm.
So you develop those particular beliefs and then you make those particular decisions around certain things because of your own personal circumstances. So when you get down to the root cause as to where that actually does come from, then you're able to unpack how you can actually move forward.
Mm.
And some people might be saying, well, I can't afford a coach or I don't have time for a coach. It's honestly, sometimes it's just sitting in silence. It could be even just journaling a few things out. It could be even just exploring what has happened in your past to uncover why you can't make that step forward. But the minute that you do recognize what that is, then that can actually help you.
Mm.
And that's for anybody, whether they feel that they can or they can't. Getting to that root cause of what is blocking you is always the way forward.
Yeah. And if, for example, Christina, that maybe the time's not exactly right for a big career shift
Yep.
or change, but you know that it's something that could be a possibility that will open up for you in the next few years when circumstances may be different. What do you
Mhm.
suggest for people who are in that position where, they want to be prepared for if and when the opportunity arises? What sort of things can women do now, who might be in that situation, no matter what their career, what could they start looking at to help prepare them for an eventual shift
Yeah.
or change?
Great question, Joe. And I think it comes down to each personal circumstance, to
Yeah, I
be
know.
honest.
And it's really hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because there's
It's
no
hard.
no one right answer and there's so
There
many
isn't.
variations
Yeah.
to have.
And I don't want to give like a motherhood statement or a comment around that because it is very much individual for each person. But what I probably would say is understand your strengths, know what your strengths are, you're good at. Probably would link it back to also, are you worthy? So linking it back to self-worth. A lot of women might say, well, I don't have the confidence to do it. Confidence is like a muscle. You can build it. You can build up your confidence. But your self-worth, that is something that it's not like like self-confidence where you can build it. Self-worth, it comes from within. If you feel worthy of that change and worthy of having the career that you want, you'll make the necessary steps to get there. But if there's an inkling there that you don't feel worthy, just an inkling, it's going to be a little bit harder for you to get there. And even as I say that, my mind's thinking, hold on, you're being very general here, and it's not going to be helpful to people who are listening to this because it is something that I feel that can't be generalized.
Mm.
But knowing that that self-worth piece is a huge one for women, and it can be very confronting too. Do I feel worthy of having this career? Do I feel worthy of having the life I have? And if you explore that a little bit further, then that will also uncover certain things for you. But I think as a general motherhood statement, I'd probably say for everybody, look at your strengths. Sorry, I had to explore that and unpack it for myself because, as I said, it's a hard one to answer.
It is a hard one to answer, and that's
Yeah,
unless you've got somebody in front of you that can give you lots of details to put some context behind it.
yeah,
It is a hard one to
yeah.
answer. But I'm just thinking of the people, the women who listen to the podcast, different walks of life, different professions. They're either in careers, they've left career, or they're thinking
Mm,
of changing career. So there's not one particular person that is like we're not the same. We're not
yeah,
just this whole row of looking exactly the same. So I'm just thinking for that person who was okay. I know I can't do it right now. It's not a case for me of if I'm worthy or not. I know I am worthy, but I know the time's just not right now. So what
yeah,
do I need to do as far as my career? What do I start? If I'm good at something, do I start putting my hand up for more of that? Do I start getting some more skills, some more
yeah.
experience in this area? What, is that something that they could explore as well, perhaps?
Yeah, they definitely could. And I think, yeah, from that, if it definitely would be looking at your strengths, as I said before. So,
Mm,
what are your strengths? How can you actually utilize your strengths more effectively? Are you utilizing them to your fullest capacity right now? If not, then how can you do that? Because the strengths is where you actually, it's where you step into your own. It's where you're doing the things that you love, the things that bring you joy, the things that are aligned to you. And sometimes it's just taking that small little action to help you move forward. So even if it isn't right now that this is what you want to do. So say, for example, if you want to step into a management role, but you're not sure of what to do or how to actually do that, you don't actually have to step into a manager role to be a manager. So you can actually put up your hand now for extra projects. You can put up your hand and provide your suggestions for improvement. You can um, you can shadow someone and say, how can you actually teach me how to do things? So there's different ways that you can actually sort of bring yourself forward if you want to step into that manager role, for example.
Mm.
If it's a changing career direction, full stop. So whether you know that um, you're wanting to move from, say, for example, full-time to part-time, but you don't know how to. Working through, okay, well, how do you actually organize your day? What are some of the things that you actually do on a day-to-day basis that you know that you stretch it out over that weekly period? How can you actually condense that to, 4 days a week or 3 days a week instead? What are some of those things that you procrastinate on? Recognizing what they are and honing in on that, because I know for me, I had to hone in on that because there were some things that I procrastinated on and I hated doing because, well, I hated doing it, so I procrastinated on it. So I didn't do it. So once I actually discovered what they were, then I was actually able to shave that off so that I could spend my time more meaningfully working part-time.
Mm.
So there's different little actions that you can take to set you up now for that, but it's about recognizing and understanding what that is and maybe doing that reflective exercise too. And unpacking it a little bit further will definitely give you more clues as to what you can do. But yeah, it is different for each situation, absolutely. But if you can take those little actions every single step, every single day or every week, then that definitely will help prepare you for that time when you actually do step into that next phase, stage, role,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you look at just say, and on the podcast, your podcast, we talked about this. For a lot of women, you get onto a almost like a conveyor belt that started back in your 20s, a trajectory that is going to take you.
Yep.
And at some point, you go, like you're just settling for things because that's the way it was, and it's hard to get off because you're still on this conveyor belt, and life's carrying you
Yep.
through. And then you get to the point where we talked about that earlier, listening to those whispers, where all of a sudden you realize you're not enjoying it. You're settling for something that
Mm.
is just okay. It's a means to an end. I'll just grit my teeth and I'll get through it. I've got 10 more years to go or 5 more years to go. I can do it. I can do it. And you go, why? Why do
Mm.
you just grit your teeth? And I know in my situation, I got on that conveyor belt. And at the start, it was exciting. It was a new career, and I loved the career, and I loved so many aspects of it. But that career changed and morphed in so many different ways that I barely recognized it. And it was just such a conflict into my own personal values, and hitting head on to a conflict of what I value in myself, what I know is right
Mm.
against something, a bigger machine than me telling me that I've got to do it otherwise. I just found that really hard
Mm.
because I suppose integrity is my highest value. So I was not living in integrity. And I'm not sure where I'm going with this question, but I'm just thinking, how do we try to encourage women to go, all right, yeah, I'm stuck on that conveyor belt. I want to have some change, and I need to find somebody to help me get off that conveyor belt to not
Mm.
just settle. What sort of things do you like? Do organizations, if they can't find a career coach, do government organizations, do the big corporates, do they have people that you can talk to?
Mm. Really good question. And I think it's not necessarily about someone that you can talk to within those, as you suggested, government organisations or within the organisation. You can even talk to your friend. Talk to your friend about it. Talk to, your work wife or your work husband at work. We've always got one of those, a confidant at work that we confide in,
Mm.
and chat to about things. So even just chat to them. I mean, sometimes having those kind of conversations over a coffee or something definitely help. Um, there are a lot of organisations who don't have those capabilities where you can actually have those career discussions. They tend to do more motherhood kind of
Yeah.
learning and development things, they a tick a box kind of an exercise, I find. I don't think I've found one yet or know of one who actually have specific people who'll talk to you about your career and help you with that. You've got your manager that you do, your performance reviews every year, end of year and mid-year, tick a box exercise. How many managers actually out there will help their employee with their career? There's some who will, but there are some who don't know how to do it and it's just a tick a box exercise. So you do, a lot of the time it is just talk to your friend, talk to your peer. How can they help you?
Interesting, isn't it? Like when
Yeah, it
if
is
you start to
interesting.
think about it, your career takes up a huge chunk of your life if you choose to go
Huge.
full time. And even if you
Yeah,
go part time and you're 4 days a week or 3 days a week, that's still a lot of hours.
it
You would
is.
think it would be in the best interest of organizations to have people in place to get the most, like if you're a bit disgruntled and you're really needing a bit of a change, and
Yep.
you would think that they would have somebody there.
You
Are they
think.
getting more, you'd think, are they getting more flexible in your experience, Christina, with allowing women to change from full time to part time, work at home, having that bit of a hybrid of working from home, working in the workplace itself.
Yeah, I think that depending upon the organisation, I know where I currently work, they're very good with the hybrid. Yes, they have a mandate, but the mandate is extremely reasonable. 60% of the time in the office over a 2-week period, which is, I mean, that's pretty good. Other organisations, there are some big fours out there who are saying you have to come back 5 days a week into the office. There are others who are still 100% fully remote. So I think it just depends upon the organisation, how antiquated they are or how modern they are, and whether they're actually listening to their people or not.
Mm.
And you find that those that aren't necessarily listening to their people, their attrition rates are quite high. They've got people leaving because it doesn't actually suit what they want to do, whereas others who are actually listening to their employees and listening to what they want, the retention rates are pretty good.
Yeah.
So I think it depends upon the organisation, depends upon the structure, depends upon who's at the top and how they're driving it down. What the CEO is essentially saying. I mean, the message from the CEO, it filters down through the exec team, it filters down through senior leadership, it filters through middle management, and it also depends upon the individual person that you're working with too, because some of their beliefs and their biases come into play as well. So you might have one manager in a team who's extremely flexible with the fact that it's okay to work part-time. They feel that you can do it within that period. And yes, you can spend more time at home because you are very effective and you can complete your tasks and we trust you. Whereas in another team, the same organization, you might have a manager who absolutely mistrusts that side of things. And no, you have to be in the office 5 days a week. I don't care what the company policy says, you have to, because in the back of their mind, they don't trust you. So it is very much back to the belief system of the people that you're reporting to. I think that actually shapes a lot of that conversation, even if an organisational culture or organisational mandate stipulate X, Y, and Z.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and you hear that a lot. Um, and you see it a lot in terms of, well, it's more hearing it rather than seeing it because I can be quite biased about the organisation that I work for because they are extremely flexible and they're very good at walking the talk. And they've got an executive team that actually support that particular piece too. Yes, there are a couple of managers who say, no, you have to be in the office more because for your stakeholders, but you just navigate through it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think it depends on the organisation and depends upon the individual that you report to, because there are still some of those who may not necessarily controversial here, but it is that whole patriarchy aspect. You just want to work from home because you want to do some stuff around the house and all the rest of it, that kind of thing. You're
Yeah.
not going to be effective if you're working from home because you are doing things around the house. or you're spending time with your kids. I think working the way the world changed, 5 or so years ago now, we all adapted to a different way of working. It's interesting that it's some organisations, they've done a complete 360 and have gone back to what it was before that, where they're still not trusting their staff, or gone back to not trusting their staff and not treating them like adults.
Yeah.
And that I find that quite sad that they're not able to continue the way that we did things. Everyone got their work done. Yeah, there might have been some who may have taken advantage of it, absolutely, but that's not everyone. If you look at the majority of people will actually do their absolute best and get a lot of work done when they're working from home. And I
Mm.
know for me, when I work from home, sometimes I can absolutely power through things. But then other times, yeah, I'm very grateful I can do the laundry, or
Mm.
I'm very grateful I can empty the dishwasher and get dinner on.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it just depends on organisation to organisation.
Yes. And for yourself, Christina, where would you spoke earlier about the women that you work with and
Yeah.
the things that you absolutely love about your role and how you can help them see a different side to themselves, to have the confidence to apply and to change, and to go into, maybe a morph into a different career or branch out into something else. What else do you really enjoy about what you do, and what do you want to keep growing and building on within your
That's an
own business?
awesome question. Awesome question, Joe. I think for me, I love the mindset side of it. I love unpacking where those limiting beliefs and decisions come from
Mm.
and getting to the root cause of it, because then they're not on that constant hamster wheel. They're not constantly doing the same thing that they always do, and they have the courage to take that step forward. When we work on those things and when we clear those things, that's where the beauty comes into play. It really does. The shift, the self-belief that they have, the self-confidence that they develop, the self-worth, that some of them it increases, or they they feel more worthy. That's where the magic happens, I
Mm.
think. The career side of things, they tend to then work out what it is that they want to do. Some of them might stay in their current role, some of them might move into another role because they've realized that where they work was toxic for them. So when you get to that mindset piece, I think that a lot of that is the where you operate on that unconscious level and even that subconscious level. Yeah, that's where the magic, that's where I love working in. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see that because you lit up as the moment you started to talk about it. That's wonderful. Let's also talk about your podcast. What was the reason behind you starting the podcast, and
Mm.
where are you hoping that's going to lead, and where you're hoping that's going to take the next stage of your business?
Yeah, I think the podcast, me starting that was definitely something that I know I needed to do. And talk about following the signs. I won a podcast mic and it sat there in the box for 2 years and I didn't do anything with it. Funny about that, mindset coaches still need mindset work too.
Oh
So
yeah.
that self-belief I had that I couldn't do it, that was definitely driving it. So yeah, for 2 years I just sat there staring at that box. I couldn't even remember at one stage where it was hidden. But I'm grateful that I started it when I did, because I needed to clear a lot of misconceptions and a lot of beliefs that I had about myself. But for me, it's not about me, it's about my audience, and it's about and the women that I can help, even if it's the tiniest thing that they get from the podcast. If there's one little nugget that they take away from an episode or and act on it, then I know that I've done my job. I
Mm.
know that I've actually helped them make a change in their world, even if it is tiny, to help them move forward. And that's one of the reasons why I started the podcast. The other reason is to, I guess, get to my audience in a different way. Your social media, your LinkedIn or your Instagram profiles and all the rest of it can only it taps into a certain audience where podcasts tap into a different audience altogether. And because I like talking, as you probably gathered, I love talking and I like sharing and sharing my experience with people and my knowledge with people. Because a lot of people would say to me, "You've got a lot to say because you've got a lot to share, and we value that." And I think that feedback from individuals also helped me to start my podcast too. And even the feedback now that I get from people is pretty phenomenal that, they share that they did that one thing that helped them move forward. And I know that I'm doing the right thing here by
Mm.
having that podcast out there.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah,
Because it is a big
thank
thing
you.
to
It's
put your voice
huge.
out there. And, we always hit play or follow a certain podcast, but to know the stories behind why someone started is really,
Yeah.
really important. And, you also spoke about a different way of thinking. It shines a light on maybe you haven't thought of something in particular that you've come up, you live you live in your own head, you've got your own thoughts. Somebody might just suddenly shine a light on something that's a little bit different, maybe challenges you. Hearing other people going through something that's similar to you and knowing that they've gone through it successfully, they got through to the other side. I really like in my podcast, and I've been encouraging my listeners more and more each week to have a journal, to have something there,
Mm.
just to write down something that stuck out for them, or I challenge them or give them a question that they can perhaps go explore a little deeper. So, what's something that you would like to leave my listeners with that they might be able
Mhm.
to just think about a little bit more deeply or explore a little bit more deeply?
Mhm. Really good question. What is one thing that you have been avoiding that you need to look at, that you need to take action on? That's probably the question. What is one thing you have been avoiding?
Uh,
Yeah, because we're
mm,
all
that's
avoiding
hard.
something. It's a juicy one. It is a juicy one. But I
Yeah.
think it's in terms of your career. If you want to move your career forward,
Yeah.
what is that one thing that you know that you've been avoiding that's going to help you move forward?
Mm, mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's great. Now let's talk about.
it's a big one. Sorry, Joe.
No, that was a nice, juicy one to leave everyone with. Let's talk about how people can find you before I have some wrap up questions.
Yeah,
So if people want to
absolutely.
explore, career coaching mindset, how they can get
Hmm.
move on into their career or
Hmm.
change that, how can they find you,
Hmm.
Tina?
Well, I'm pretty much under every handle of her career coach. So whether it be LinkedIn, whether it be Instagram or Facebook, I'm primarily on LinkedIn and Instagram. So if you look up her career coach, but on LinkedIn, I tend to utilize my personal page, so Christina Storey. But also you've got the podcast, her career coach podcast show, and also my website as well. So all under her career coach.
Fantastic. And it doesn't matter where you
Yeah.
live in Australia. If somebody was
Yep.
in far north Queensland
Yep.
or in WA, they could still
Yep.
contact you.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Perfect.
I've had clients in Singapore. I've had clients in other Asia Pac areas. So yes, I'm quite flexible with that in terms of time zones, etc. We work it out.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And you've got a discovery call as well, haven't you? Have you got?
Yeah, yeah. So depending upon how you want to work with me, yeah. So I've got a couple of I currently do 90-minute career strategy sessions. Or there's my 6-month program, one-on-one program, which is the Elevate program. So we'll spend probably about 15 minutes on a discovery call once. I'll ask you a few questions about you, find out a bit more about your life and your career, and then I'll actually suggest to you which one you benefit from, and then you decide which one you want to go with. I don't force people to do one or the other. It is honestly what I feel that they need then and there. There are some women who I know who would need the mindset and the career side of things with Elevate, but I know that right now they need that career strategy piece. So we just work on that for now. But I've also got a couple of other things coming in the pipework as well. So keep an eye out. So I've got what I'm going to call my reignite, refocus, um, reignite workshop, which is all about what I spoke earlier in terms of reflecting back on what you've done looking at what you can do now and how to move yourself forward. So that's going to be coming up in the not too distant future.
Fantastic. Well, good luck with that. And we'll look forward to also seeing all of that happening and evolving for you. And all the links that
Yeah,
Christina
thank you, Joe.
will also be in the show notes. So you can go directly there and click on the hyperlink that will be in the show notes. So just in the wrap up questions then, Christina, just how are you finding this stage of life for you? How is the middle of life treating you?
You know what? Funnily enough, I was actually reflecting about that this morning. I had my coffee outside. The sun is shining beautifully here in Melbourne today. And it's was just thinking about that and I thought, you know what? I'm actually quite fortunate in terms of that I followed those nudges, that I actually took those steps to move myself forward. And I'm very grateful that I did because my life is different to where it was 7 years ago. It's even different to where it was 5 years ago. And every day, when I wake up, I'm very grateful for the life that I have and the life that is going to be.
Mm,
I think at the people say, people say when they turn 50 that they're like, oh, my life is over. I'm 50 now. And what am I going to do? I actually think it starts at 50, to
mm,
be quite honest. I mean, I am doing more now at 53 than what I was at 48. I'm doing more now and appreciating more things in life at 53. And, I'm looking forward to what is next. I get to create that for me. And I think that that's what's really exciting about that. I get to show up. I get to become the woman I want to be. And I think that anyone, whatever position that they're in, they get to become the woman that they want to be. Yeah.
and
So it's
right.
just making those intentional, conscious decisions that you make every day. But yeah, life just, I reckon it starts at 50. They say life it starts at 40, but nah, I reckon it
Yeah,
starts at
yeah, you're
50.
still getting the experience. You're still getting stride.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you think, yeah, I think having that experience to create your life by design in the second half is just so valuable.
Yeah, I think so too.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
have
have,
that insight
I
and
think you
wisdom.
have fewer regrets and you actually want to create a life so you can enjoy your golden years.
Well, let's hope because there are still plenty of people who will die being filled with regret and not taking
Yeah.
those steps. And it's through the likes of what you're doing, what I'm doing, that can
Mm-hmm.
help people, take those little tentative steps forward to a
Absolutely,
different
Joe.
start,
Yeah.
which is good, which
Yeah.
is exciting for them. Now,
It
Christine,
is.
what are you looking forward to in the coming years that you've got, in the next, let's say from 53 to 60?
Oh,
Woo,
oh wow. God.
wow.
That's a
You've
big,
just hit,
massive. That's like huge.
but
Oh, shit.
here we are in April, towards the end of
Oh,
April already. We've got a third of the year gone. Like the years are flying. So let's not be wasteful. What can we look forward to for you?
wow. That is a big question. I think it's being intentional every single day
Mhm.
with how I live my life and what I choose to do. And if I choose to binge on Netflix, not to feel guilty about that, for example, because I've gone back to an old show that I love watching and I'm binging on that a little bit. So I'm not feeling guilty about that. But I think it's appreciating the little things of, the hugs with my daughter every day and watching her grow into a young woman. I think having the privilege to see her grow and develop and yeah, it's beautiful to see. But I think also my relationship with my husband's changing. So I look forward to seeing where that lands us when I'm 60 and he's 63. So be interesting. Are we going to be living in the same house? I hope not. So I definitely want to do more travel. So that's another thing that I hope to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're probably the only things that I can think of right now.
No,
But I
and
think
that's
for,
fine.
for my business, I know that I'm not going to be working in my corporate role.
Yes.
I know that I'll be spending more time working with some sensational women and helping them with their career and their mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So too.
It's
Well,
the stuff
thank
I love.
you for coming on to the podcast today and shining a light on a topic that needs to be, people need to take a bit of stock on how they might want
Mm.
the direction of their career to go, because it's such an important facet.
Mm.
Leading by example and supporting other women. So thank you. And our closing question that I always ask my guests is, what do you hope 80-year-old Christina will say about current day Christina?
Thank you for having the courage to take the step.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
as well. And I'm sure all of the people that you work with will be very thankful that you did take that step.
Thank you, Joe. Thank
Mm.
you for having me on. It's been a good
Absolute,
conversation. Thank you.
absolute pleasure. All right. All the best. Thanks so much for spending your time with me today. I hope you feel inspired to make the next chapter of your life the best one yet. And remember to share this episode with someone else who would love it, and connect with me on Instagram or LinkedIn at Joe Clark Coaching. All the links and the details from today's episode are in the show notes or at joeclarkcoaching.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please follow or subscribe this show on your favourite podcast app and leave a 5-star rating and review. This helps more midlife women find these empowering conversations. I can't wait to chat with you next week. Until then, take care and keep creating a life that you love.